But yet, there they are, right? And I remember, Rob asking me, so what'd you think? And I said, well, yeah, it's all right. And he said, what do you mean it's all right? This is, one of the most influential books of the latter part of the 20th century, and stuff like that. And I said, well, he almost gets it right. What do you mean almost? I said, well, it's a lot different when you're on the selling side, and it's a lot different when you're selling industrial quantities, right? It's a whole different dynamic. It's a whole different atmosphere, right? So I always wanted I never wanted to tell that side of the story. That was always something that I wanted to keep in my back pocket, and something that I knew and that wasn't to be shared. But then Rob and I started doing research down in Mexico about, and it was back at the time when we could still go down there and you could party and have a good time. We had some great times down there, right, Rob? And just some hell of a times down there. And we'd go down there, we'd talk to these old men, or I'd go down there and I'd do some preliminary work. Then when I finally found something, I'd call Rob in, he'd come down there with me. And we talked to these guys. And on one occasion, we're walking down the street, we run into my old man, my dad. And I introduced him to Rob and everything. I don't know if you've met him before or something. I think that was probably the first time. And then just at that time when we're sitting out there just right there in the Zona Rosa, right there on the sidewalk, 2 cop cars come pulling over. And and I saw Rob's eyes once again go wide, right? Not the first time that had happened in Mexico. And I always tell Rob, don't worry about anything down here. Anything bad that's going to happen to you, something terrible has to happen to me first. So, you'll have plenty of time to run of anything. And these 2 cop cars come pulling up, and Rob's like, oh no, here they come again. And they came down and they just started bowing all over my dad and kissing all over his feet, and hugging all over him and stuff like that. And Rob was kind of impressed, and he kept on telling me, write these stories down of this research we're doing. I'm going to write a book where you can get this stuff published, you can get these things published and stuff like that. And yeah, we did. We published an article in Beat Scene, a UK publication, and he kept on telling me, write these things down, write these things down, write these things down. So I did. I wrote the Burroughs stuff down, right? And I gave it to Rob, and he was like, oh, yeah. And, we used some of it in some of the books that he did, used some of it in some of the publication that we did over there in Beat Scene. But then he starts chingy, write the other stories down, and write the other stories down. And I'm like, you don't talk about those things. What's the matter with you? You can't be telling those stories. He's like, yeah. And I started dabbling in other types of short stories and things like that. And again, it was like, this is the story you need to tell. And then I'd meet other people like Dr. Williamson and other friends. And when we hang out, I tell them these stories about when I was growing up in Reynosa. And they were like, well, you need to write them down. You need to write them down. You need to write them down. And I did, and that's what ended up happening. But as far as other authors, Americo Paredes, George Washington Gomez, I like that. Rolando Hinojosa Smith, I like that. What I didn't like is the fact that they would change the names, and that they would, there was still that patron system fear, right, in their writing. And I didn't really agree with that. And I also, what I wanted to do is I wanted to be brutally honest. No matter who got offended, right? I think I'm just as honest with Mexicans in my book as I am honest with white people in my book, and as I am my criticism of the legal system on both sides of the river, and just the general environment that these trumped up drug war has caused for all of us, because this, like poverty, like racism, is just another man-made phenomenon that's going on, right? There's really no need for it. Like I said, instead of sending us down $1.3 million a week to protect us from people driving around with tinted windows, build us a law school, right? Or better yet, send that money down to South America, and maybe they can build up their infrastructure and unpollute the rivers that we polluted, maybe replenish the forests that we've chopped down, take out the maquiladores, the real illegal aliens, Straight up, that term can only apply to one demographic. Illegal aliens, those are the corporate America that has crossed rivers and borders illegally to pay slave wages. You know, you got people down in Mexico being paid $90 a week for a 70-hour work week, right? And it's even worse in China. You got people, you know, throwing themselves out of their workplace. You know, they have the nets set up around the buildings where they make the iPhones, right? Where Apple has those set up. And for what? For what? To add a few more zeros on somebody's bank account? I mean, how much is enough? You know, certainly they're not going to be able to spend all this money. Yeah. And I propose that we should just, after you've reached a certain amount of money, just give them a blank check credit card, and they can do anything with it. Right? They don't even need money anymore. They can buy people. They can belittle butlers. They can, you know, yell at maids and stuff like that, and just, you know, show the credit card and okay. And, you know, and if they keep on contributing and, you know, building factories and giving other people work and paying them a decent salary, well, they can do more and more with that credit card. But if they can't, well, then they get it taken away or something. I mean, there's got to be a much better system than you know, just a select few sitting on piles of money while the rest of us are, you know, living check to check and still getting further harassed for you know, with a $180 traffic ticket for driving around with your windows tinted too dark, right? So
they're gonna have to give out a lot of those tickets in order to make up for $1.3 million a week.
Oh, and they're trying their best. I mean, they're out there 24/7, right? They're pulling over as many as they can. The helicopters are in full swing. Yeah, they're gonna get their money's worth one way or the other, definitely. But again, I wish that money could, you know, be better spent, right? There's all kinds of things that we could do with it down here. So, well, that's as far as my reading list goes. What else would you guys?
Can you give us a taste of the book?
Sure.
First one's free, right?
Sure. The first one's free. Oh, I was going to tell you, if you can you log on here? I was invited. Again, another friend of Dr. Williams, who teaches here. They called him and asked him if he would like to participate in a documentary that was set up by the Ford Foundation, and it's called One Day on Earth. It should be coming out shortly, but you can, if you type that in, One Day on Earth, in the Rio Grande Valley. What they did was, Ford Foundation gave these people money, and they're asking for people from all over the world to speak. On April 26th, everybody got up and said something about the problems that were plaguing their community. And they gave a list of 10 cities here in the United States where they had to, if they were going to get the grant money, they had to come to these cities. And the producers were really intrigued because of all the cities in the United States, the Rio Grande Valley was the only region. Right? He said, you know, it beat out of the Appalachians, it beat out, you know, everywhere else, right? We were kind of, you know, wondering about that, you know, why is that? And so, well, because, you know, I think it must be because we live in a very unique place here. And anyway, they were going to come down and talk to Eric. But Eric was sure that you know, if he spoke, the thought police would come and take us away, or that he would get deported. Yeah, so he sent them over to me, right? And he figured, you know, threat of deportation. Hell, I already know how to swim back over here, so what's the risk, right? You know, I have friends who can guide me. So he sent them over to me, and I agreed to speak with these people, and we talk about issues that are affecting the valley. We talk about the border wall and the, you know, the poverty and you know, Austin's attitude, Washington's attitude toward us, and I encourage all of you to check it out if you ever get a chance.
Yeah, I just typed
One Day on
Earth, and then it says LRGV.
Yeah.
Click on that.
Yeah.
Just Google it. Yeah.
One Day in the Lower Rio Grande Valley. Can you scroll this? I don't know if I'm there.
Let's see.
No.
Look like they cut you out one. No, you're in there somewhere, I'm sure. I was going down, right? watched some of it.
Yeah, if you type in my name in One Day on Earth, it'll give you a bunch of stuff, or maybe around over here where my street's at.
Oh,
They got a side map there. Yeah, I probably got edited out for being a Mexican.
Oh, yeah. I said something you shouldn't have again.
Yeah, I said something I shouldn't have again. Yeah, it's like,
Okay, so if you scroll around, it goes to different people?
uh-huh,
Okay, you're over here, right?
yeah, I should be able to mission someplace.
Let's see. Oh, yeah, you guys can find La Jolla.
Yeah, around there. I think this is like the trailer for it or
I'm
something.
trying to find it and show
Yeah,
it to them.
okay, all right.
I still wanna watch it too.